Hello, are we gathering? And Manu, you're handling whether we're muting or not, yes?
Yes.
Very good, very good. Hello, everyone. Again, I am Sunny Chase, and I'm very, very grateful to be here tonight and this morning and this afternoon, wherever you are. And it is Rosh Hashanah. A Happy New Year to those who celebrate it. And many of us, like me, love to celebrate every kind of New Year that ever comes around. Every holiday of light, every holiday of beginnings and new beginnings, so we can all be in Rosh Hashanah just now. So we're all very familiar with Manu, so there's no need for any of that, but there is the need to remind us all that we are picking up where we left off last week. And we are jumping into number 7 of the what am I looking right at? So sorry, what am I looking
I think
right
we are
at?
looking at number
Beautiful
6.
quantum creation. Yes, the unveiling. What is the quantum creation? And again, the 6 that we spoke of last week were amazing and really powerful for us. And so I think without further ado, we'll get right to it because there's a lot to say and we barely got through 6 last time. So Manu, I hand the talking stick to you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you, Sunny. And this is, it's best to keep it interactive. So if there's something that show up that you wish to share, or anybody else that is watching, if you feel there's a question or there's something that's coming up to share, put it in the chat and Sunny will be looking out for it. Thank you, Sunny. So let's begin. Just wanted to do a quick recap, I think would be useful in terms of um,
That's
what is quantum and creation by itself. So I'll just do a quick recap there. I just want to, Sunny, if you can also mute yourself, that would be great. So first of all, cadence to quantum creation is what we're talking about, the 12 pathways. Cadence itself, a quick recap, it's a rhythm. It's a rhythm of your existence. It's a natural beat, the flow, the breath in between the moments. And in the age of brilliance, cadence is not just about consistency, it is about alignment with the deeper pulse of creation itself. So in summary, it is a harmony between your inner frequency and the larger frequency of life. And that's really what we mean by cadence in its wholeness. So what it means to add it to quantum creation. Creation has been linear, effort-driven, bound by time, logic, and limitation. Quantum creation shifts this to quantum, which is multidimensional, instantaneous, beyond the old limits of cause and effect. And then to create quantumly is to weave infinite possibility across time and space. And it is this that collapses delays and expands outcomes. It is this kind of a creation that is holographic. It is this kind of creation that really inspires and shifts, ripples through relationships, benefits, business, health, and the entire planet. Life before might have been transactional. With quantum creation, it becomes transformational. Transformational basically means intentions in, miracles out. That's really what we're talking about, and we're looking at the pathways. So let's go into where we left off. So just a quick one line of each one. Pathway 1 was taking that next step next. Pathway 2 was about listening to resonance, tuning into what vibrates your truth. Pathway 3 was about living in coherence. Pathway 4 was about anchoring choice. Pathway 5 was all about using your miracle lens. Pathway 6 is about surrendered action. So surrendered action, what does that actually mean? It actually means acting fully without any attachment to the outcome. It's a bit hard to act without any attachment to outcome. So what I have done for myself is acting fully I get, and it's something that I've been, into. So I also, as a part of my acting fully, I go into releasing the attachment to outcome. So I do recognize where I am attached to an outcome and give permission for that to be released. So of its own accord, it starts to dissolve and go away. The interesting thing was, I thought I had really risen above all these attachments. And, many of you heard me talk about the situation where I had a breakdown with my business partner. It was time to complete that relationship. And, yes, using many of the Age of Brilliance guidances, I was able to get both of us on the table. But every time there would be a meeting, I realized that there would be some trepidation within me. And I wasn't feeling that unequivocal flow of yumminess. And I realized that whilst I had surrendered, I was acting, taking action, proactive action, it was not surrendered action. I was still attached to the outcome being a certain way from that meeting. And I couldn't rest that attachment, So as a result, I started in as a part of preparing for myself with the visual, auditory, kinesthetic envisioning of how the meeting would go. A part of that was releasing, giving permission to myself to release the attachment to outcome. I saw that vast majority of my 123 trillion cells were completely agnostic to any outcome. They were just showing up because I was going to show up. So the few that were attached to the outcome, I simply had to give permission to them to release and invite the rest of my cells to support this release. And that helped me massively. So you may want to consider where certain things matter a lot to you. Rather than analyzing it or processing it, give permission to your cells to release the outcome. That's all. Because you will act and you will act fully anyway. Okay? So act fully and you begin the acting because that acting fully, because what that does is it gets the bandwagon rolling. But if you start examining your attachment to outcomes, you may actually just get stopped and it'll interfere with the cadence. So when to accomplish cadence, action is required. Okay, so act fully, then give permission to yourselves to release attachment to outcomes. Why does this matter? It matters because striving creates exhaustion. Surrender creates expansion. The moment you step into surrender, you know that you're not alone, you're not giving up. You're actually expanding the force of collaborators and co-creators. You become an open invitation to your collaborators and co-creators. Acting fully means you're intentional and you're very focused. Remember, the context of surrendered action is cadence. Cadence to quantum creation. That's why this is a pathway. So that in itself means you're very intentional and transformational. So striving just disappears, Who does it impact? It impacts those that are high achievers. It has a direct impact on those who like to feel in control of what's going on, like who over control. Over control with a push can be completely exhausting, and especially when the world is changing so fast, it can become really heavy. What it makes possible is freedom. It's a huge exhale whilst so much is being accomplished. And as that freedom sets in, joy gets activated and you start to experience unexpected brilliance. And when you are releasing your attachment, this is a practice that you could do. You literally go into I release this to source. You can do this just before a big major action. You can do this just after. So you're not attached to outcome. You've taken really big action, release it to source. So powerful and such a simple practice. No major sitting down or doing anything or at all. Release the outcome to source. Pathway 7. Pathway 7 is vibrational integrity. So what is vibrational integrity? What do I mean by that? It ensures that your energy and all the energy signatures that are exuding from you match that which you have, that future that you've called into. Remember, ask and it is given. The moment you ask, your desire, rocket of desire shoots out and it is delivered. And the way you meet your rocket of desire is by ensuring there's a vibrational energetic match with it. So vibrational integrity is that, ensuring your energy matches the future you are calling in. We are talking about quantum creation, not quantum manifestation. We've already done that part. This is another level up. And not only are we talking about quantum creation, we're talking about getting into cadence with it, which means you are stepping into the role that you were designed for, the role that your soul essence was birthed to propagate and carry forward, which is the role of being a creator, the creator of your life, the creator of your experiences. We have a mind. Mind is about survival. For survival, past and future both matter. Even though your heart keeps you stationed in the moment, and it is a moment that is the only reality there is, if any. So, respectfully, in this pathway, you allow the future to be anchored as an intention. And all you're doing is you're working on ensuring your energy signature matches that future that you're calling in. I do accept that it's not always that easy, because sometimes you're calling in a future that you can't even imagine or envision. So you can allow your imagination to go forward and create the possibility of that future. The possibility your brain goes, yeah, I can sign up to that. And being in the possibility of that future automatically starts to lift your vibrations. And all of you here, you are like veterans of the work that I do. And many of you have taken part in very deep programs with me. So you already know you have the miracle lens and so many other things. And you've used many of these practices already to know that, despite whatever may be happening, you have got within you, and you own your perspective of how you look at things. And based on how you look at things, let's say you're intentional about upleveling your vibrational integrity, you know that the moment is rich in miracles. And if you've just completed an envisioning of the future, you're using the miracle lens to see what's making your heart sing right now, you know you're already anchored in the possibility of the future. So why does it matter? You cannot attract brilliance while you're embodying fear. Fear is false expectations appearing real. So not only are you embodying brilliance, you're also attracting brilliance here. And whilst you are in false expectations appearing real, it's impossible. And remember, impossible has the nuance of I am possible. So I'm saying it's impossible because all you are to do is acknowledge those false expectations. And once you acknowledge them, they go away as expectations, and you're able to stand for the possibility of that desired future. Who does it impact? Anyone who is manifesting growth in love, in wealth, in purpose, in connection, in oneness with the divine. Anyone who is manifesting that, it impacts all of us. What it makes possible for you is speed, synchronicity. And the combination of speed with synchronicity creates quantum leaps. We had nearly a couple of years of no meaningful connection. And yet, this particular business partner had ownership and the relationships in the context of all of the technology that was developed. But it was this intentionality with which, I was guided, and I just kept going, taking the next step next. Really, as I'm looking back at what happened, how did we get him back on the table to have a discussion, and actually concluded a very meaningful and quite a fulfilling outcome in the end. And it was through a series of synchronistic occurrences that enabled that quantum leap. And it required some proactive working, the vibrational integrity. And this was a question that I would ask often, which is, this is a practice you could have, just doing a vibrational check. Am I in fear or in flourishing? You'll feel the fear because it does have a little bit of that yuckiness in you. And if you're in fear, there is no I shouldn't be in fear. There is simply, okay, I have some false expectations appearing real right now. Let me just acknowledge what they are. The moment you acknowledge them all, your mind relaxes. You can go back to VAC, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic visioning of the outcome. And as you complete your visioning, you go into a space of gratitude. What can you be grateful for? peace starts to get anchored as a vibration within you, and you enter the realm of flourishing. You can also use music, you can use breath, and of course, gratitude, like I said. You know, I've created another song just a couple of days ago. It's amazing how they're just coming in so fast. And I'm grateful for it. I'm awed by it. And I remain anchored in simply allowing myself to be the transcribe here with these songs coming in. And it's called The Moment Belongs to You. I will share it with everyone. And now that there are 4 songs that have been uploaded, I love going to Spotify and listening to one of the songs as it starts to follow up with these others under my label. So they're all powerful songs that really support these pathways. The songs of flourishing, basically. And I remember Bob Marley and his song of Songs of Freedom. And I think what I'm creating here are songs of flourishing. So music does play a very big role, very big role. Breath, this is a really great breath that breaks a pattern. Okay, because sometimes when you are seriously concerned, you have a shortness of breath. So doing a 9-4-6 maintains the shortness of breath. This one breaks that shortness of breath, and then you can go to a 9-4-6. And basically, the pattern basically is you go. So 2 rapid breaths in, very short but very sharp. So the out breath is long exhale. Because the piece that is missing when you are anxious or panicked is exhale isn't happening. You're trapped in whatever it is that's caused the panic, and you're in that loop. So by proactively going, breathe in, breathe out, slow and long, breaks the pattern. Do it 2 times, 3 times. You'll very rarely need to do it even 5 times. 7 is the maximum. You will not need to do any more than that. But the moment the pattern breaks, return to normal breath, couple of normal breaths, and then you can go into breathe into the count of 9, hold to the count of 4, breathe out to the count of 6. Many of us here are mothers. So we may be in a beautiful space, but when something occurs with our child that gets them stressed and they are stuck in it, or something that might go off, might occur with a sibling, and they suddenly shut you off, so you can't be in any communication with them whatsoever. You can hold the intention for your loved one. Hold the intention for your loved one for a way of being that will enable them and equip them to resolve whatever it is that they're dealing with. And you get into a state of flourishing. Holding that intention for a loved one in their way of being, allowing yourself to do the practices that keep you in a state of flourishing will create a ripple effect that will touch them. Initially may not be able to penetrate their field, but as you keep going, it surrounds them. And the moment there's even a slight opening, it is like water that is wanting to flow, and it just flows in. There's like a tiny little gap, and the water just flows through. So the moment there's a tiny little opening in their way of being, they become like a sponge and they take it all in. recently, we have these big companies like Facebook and others, which are very important for companies that do online marketing. And my son's business does that. And Facebook has been having outages. They have no recourse. All they do is they say, oh, sorry, we had this outage. But suddenly you spend $40,000 on ads and you're getting an outcome, which is you're not getting the leads that you expect. You're getting leads which are worth $7,000. And they've had these outages, like series of them, 3 or 4. If a business does not have decent cash flow, it completely destroys it. So there have been situations like that have been occurring, and it really impacted my son, because his business is an online marketing business. And he would get like, he's cashing in on some of his investments so that he's bridging in the cash flow gaps that arise so that the rest of the team is not impacted. But this is like, what the hell's happening? It's been going on for the last 2 months, one after the other, outages. So he was very distressed about it, extremely distressed about it, to such an extent that he just had to keep working and think creatively, and I was not able to have a talk to him. What he did do was he did follow through, and initially he got so trapped that he was just working. And he's been a father who loves spending time with his kids, but got trapped in simply just doing. So that it is there that I practiced this part, which is okay. I cannot get through to him, and I can still be intentional about how I would love him to experience his way of being. So I just took flourishing as his way of being. Because when you have a flourishing as a way of being, you start flourishing no matter what. And being in a state of flourishing allows you to experience the ups and downs and not be tossed left and right on account of those ups and downs. And whatever occurs, there's always possibility of something different that you can choose in that moment. And taking actions to rectify whatever needed to be done or to compensate for these outages that he was being impacted by, he and his business was being impacted by, he getting distressed about it was only going to attract more disruptions of that nature. What he had to think about was be creative about a different way. Return to his meditation twice a day. So his way of being for me was that of flourishing. And with that in mind, I went into, really envisioning if he was indeed in a flourishing way of being, what would that look like? What would that make possible? What would that make available? What opportunities would open up for him? And what would he look like? What words would he be using? What would he be feeling? And me, his wife, his kids, his team, looking at him in that way, what would we be looking like? What words would we be using? And what would we be feeling? And I took all of that envisioning and ended it with 9-4-6 breath. And literally proxied for him and got into a whole brain state myself And I felt that ripple effect. And he came over to see me that next day in the morning and said that he feels he really needs to return back to he does transcendental meditation, to doing the transcendental meditation twice a day. And he'd done the meditation and he was just came up over to say, he didn't know that I was doing any of this stuff. He just came over to say that he's sort of now knows how to deal with it. And, now they're not just dependent on Facebook. So yes, practical action is required on the ground by the person that is impacted, and you can help in a very practical way. In a way that is about you, not about going and fixing somebody else, not about going and solving somebody else's issue or problem, but holding the intention of a shift in their way of being. So solutions to their problems become available to them and they become open to those solutions. The rest is up to them to take the next step next. Key question, am I in fear or flourishing? It's a very good vibrational check. Don't move forward if you experience fear. There is no fixed way things should be. There is no fixed way things should not be. There is no must do, have to do, need to do. There is only what is. So the moment you feel, there's a bit of fear, what are these false expectations that are appearing real to me right now? Acknowledge, acknowledge anything else, acknowledge anything else, acknowledge, 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 unconditionally accept all that is. You will automatically experience a huge exhale at that point. If you don't, you can do it by going those 2 rapid breaths in and a long exhale. And then you can go into, okay, if anything was possible and there were no barriers, what would I be experiencing? What would have changed to anchor flourishing in my life? And allow your imagination and your creator self to kick in. Portal 8. And then I'll have a little bit of a pause, Sunny, to interact with you. Portal 8 is a portal of harmony. Pathway 8, sorry. Pathway 8 is the portal of harmony. Harmony is creating with rhythm, with grace, rather than force. And everything that I've talked about up to this point in time really gets you anchored. Your cells love and understand what it means for you to be creating with rhythm, grace, rather than bull force. Focus on you. Come back to your own quantum transformation in the context of your own brilliance. Use these practices, these pathways are phenomenal. There is no force required in any of these pathways, and each one is transformational. Why does it matter? Harmony stabilizes creation in the quantum field. If creation, for it to become your reality, has to exist in the quantum field first. And once it exists in the quantum field, you can actually call it into being by up-leveling, getting that integrity in your vibration. And harmony stabilizes this creation in the quantum field. So it isn't just a fleeting vision. It is stabilized there. Once it's stabilized, it does not oscillate if your vibrations shift. Your own trappings and false expectations appearing real for you do not have any impact on a stabilized creation that is anchored there. It works both ways, by the way. You can create something that is a big source of worry. So sometimes when people have this experience where they're working on a particular deal and it just keeps not happening at the last minute, and they've spent a few years in that space. So there's an undertone that they operate with. Oh gosh, how am I going to cope if this doesn't happen? It has to happen. The moment you have something, it has to happen, it has to go through. You're creating, mini explosions in your quantum field. So even what is stabilized starts to, poof, vanish away. So we'll look at how to accomplish this in a moment. Why does this matter, having harmony? Is because of this. It stabilizes the creation in the quantum field. Who does it impact? It impacts teams, communities, families. Because if you are not in a state of harmony, and there are these mini explosions happening all over your quantum field, you are absolutely impacted by it, as are your loved ones, as are those that look up to you as a leader, or that look up to you as a colleague or a contemporary or a comrade. And if several of us are in this space, then it starts to impact our communities. Communities are impacted, it starts to shift the reality that is anchored on your town, your state, your country, the planet. So being anxious about climate change and what the doom and gloom that it brings with it and all of that, it starts to anchor that and totally propagates lack of harmony. And it takes a lot of effort for the few of us who are into that stabilizing creation of a flourishing world. I find myself right now, it is calling me to surrender fully to the divine, allow the divine to create its own waves and carry me and the work that I'm choosing to bring forth through as per the divine plan. So I allow myself to have these huge oscillations if that's what occurs, knowing that I am held by the divine. Right? I stay in the center of the flourishing triad. Remember, I talked about the flourishing triad, which has flourishing, humility, and harmony. Any one of those is your entry into the flourishing triad. And there you are fully supported by earth and divine angels to bring forth transformations in the world, if should you choose to. Each one of us has such the ripple effect that we create through our thoughts matches our holographic presence. Each of you here, because you've been part of this journey since 2020 at least, and some even before that, your holographic presences are huge. So if you get worried, you get anxious, it's really, the ripple effect is massive, and it takes everybody in its wake. So it calls for knowing that your presence matters. And we've all experienced quite a miraculous transformation that took place, where we saw how rapidly, how just a few of us, living beings, humans, managed to damage the planet to such an extent. And it only took a very short time for humans to return within themselves and release the nature to reclaim its own existence, that we started seeing the miracles that took place with air quality in Delhi being that of Switzerland, and rainbows, and seeing the Himalayas from, from Punjab, which was, you could barely see, um, you know, even buildings close by, let alone see all the way to the Himalayas. All of that occurred because nature operated from its truth and was able to reclaim itself. So you can imagine what's possible for each one of us if we, anchor ourselves and follow this pathway of harmony. What it makes possible is long-lasting creations that nourish all, as opposed to quick fix, flash in the pan, instant gratifications that we go after. Meditation certainly enables you to be in a state of harmony. You could have a very proactive practice, a daily practice of harmonizing your inner state. You can do that through breath, breathing in love, kindness, and compassion, breathing out gratitude and peace. If you did that, you're actually releasing the tension. It becomes as if you're breathing out the tension. The tension kept you going, by having love, kindness, and compassion. You start anchoring the experience of peace. And this whole peace, this whole way of breath, ultimately, you land up breathing in peace, breathing out tension. That's what happens. Sunny, is there anything that you want to share at this point? And there was something in the chat which I haven't.
I would just say briefly that this is a very ancient concept with the harmony rhythm all the way back to the Bushmen. And so I so appreciate it in the way that you're putting it because it's very now and new and fresh and happening and also very, very ancient. So it's sort of bringing the ancient into the modern and letting us play with it. That harmony, the rhythm, it's what so many of the indigenous work with because the rhythm can also be syncopated where it feels like it's, we're like kind of off, but we're not. So it keeps us fresh and happening. I found
Yeah.
out even with our heart that every once in a while our heart beats not perfect rhythm, and that's what it's keeps us fresh and alive and vital. So I just love that we're talking about ancient things and bringing them into 2025 where we very much need them.
Yes, and thank you, Ashaji, for sharing. Let's go to pathway number 9. Pathway number 9 is all about navigating the unknown. Getting into cadence with quantum creation will be incomplete without this pathway. And the thing is, it is occurring anyway, so you may as well be proactive about it. So what is this pathway? It's really about treating uncertainty as an ally, not your enemy. Because in this uncertainty, when you are dealing with uncertainty, you can't take anything for granted. So what do you do instead? You allow yourself to be present. You allow yourself to experience moment by moment. There is such a strong wave and wave after wave after wave of very powerful positive vibes anchoring on our planet that a lot of people have been so used to holding their form so that they can, cope with life, that these waves of positivity are becoming overwhelming for them. And there is a very rapid, uh, uh, like a wave, if you like, which is here to dissolve any fear you may have of death by experiencing the death of the way you have been being. And it's just, so people are going, I'm hearing lots of panic attack type experiences that people are having. And it's at the core of it is really the fear of death. And they feel as if they're dying because what they know, their way of being, is simply being taken away from them. Either their loved ones are behaving in ways that was uncharacteristic of them, or they're just feeling it in their being. And it's really because those vibrations that don't serve you anymore are leaving. They're leaving your body. And all there is to do is to simply allow. And the way to allow, you may not be in a consciously aware state to be able to do it. So, and you may have someone you love in that space. You allow yourself to create a container of safety for this person. So in their own way, in their own time, they will finally start to release and regroup and re-anchor into their truth. What is the truth of being human? It is love. Love is an amplifying frequency. When you start grabbing hold of, even if it is the fear of death, you're grabbing hold of it, you're constricting yourself, constricting yourself, constricting yourself. It is, and that way of being is actually dying. It is under attack. Every time there's a new advent of amazing celestial beings, there are some that experience that dying effect. Our job is to create a container that pricks that little bubble that might be constricting our loved ones, and allows this overwhelm of false expectations appearing real, dying being something which is going to take everything away, that creates that fear, versus dying being something that completes powerfully and creates an opening for new creation. You don't have to stop breathing to experience dying. I have some very dear friends, and they have a very huge project that is an ancestral project that has been deeply impacted by lots and lots and lots of intergenerational infighting around the assets. And they've been working with all sorts of healers, godmen, really to support the vibrational frequency of what's going on, to enable this, the resolve to occur. So you can have all of that occurring, but if you, and the more you employ others, this has been my conversation, the more you employ people to take problems away, you really are keeping them in place. You're actually strengthening them staying in place. And what is called for in relationship to this huge legacy-oriented action that is being brought to a culmination, what is called for is really this experience of dying, allowing the dying of all forms of attachments to how things have been, and experiencing the dying rather than constantly applying or employing strategies to push away. That's hard work. If you allow that experience of dying to occur which completes whatever has occurred so far, your field cleans itself out. Those vibrational matches are no longer there. And a fresh start can actually happen. In that fresh start, you can co-create with everybody that is still in human form in your lineage how the next phase of all of their incarnations is going to look like. And by you taking on, like I'm talking to my friend here, if you and the 2 or 3 others who are really into getting a resolution to this, there are others who are saying, why do we have to even think about this in our lifetime? We don't have that many years left. Do whatever you will after I die. However, this is a really big task that requires to be addressed. It's been going on for generations and keeping that conflict going. So it does require to be addressed. So for me, it was like, okay, at least you guys, your holographic presence is so massive, you can experience dying. Dying is a like a grand finale of completions of that which might have served you up to this point in time, but what you require is a clean slate to start over. You don't have to destroy your world. You can allow that which doesn't serve to take its last breath and leave. You continue breathing. So there's a lot of that is actually hitting people at the moment, but it gets confused by, the fear of death or dying and in a physical form. It really is calling for your thinking, your way of behaving, of your way of dealing with issues. That is what is meant to die at this point, so that you can really get a fresh start and a fresh look operating from brilliance. If you are experiencing this, someone close to you who is conflicted and is deeply impacted by a gripping fear of death and who's close to you, and it is occurring in your field, you go in and look at, where are you afraid of dying? What is it that you become so attached to that you're not willing to let go of that? And it's time for that to experience dying so that new can be created in a fresh way with collaborators and co-creators. The biggest uncertainty is this: one day the biggest certainty is one day we are actually going to have our last breath. And the biggest uncertainty is when. And you can get easily caught up in uncertainties if that's where you're anchored. Whereas uncertainty, if you can actually simply know and own, uncertainty is what's certain at the moment. So we'll just take the next step next and zoom in and be present in the moment. And in the moment, your miracle lens is active. You start seeing that which makes your heart sing. You experience abundance. You experience wholeness. You experience whole and completeness. And at that point, you don't have to go into a big process. You can literally say, whatever interferes with this experience of whole and completeness to be regenerative, I release and let go. I declare it complete. Your dying is complete. And you are rebirthed. This pathway in the portal of quantum creation is a very important pathway. Why does it matter? It matters because quantum creation lives in the unknown. So if you know that unknown is what is the known, and that was the whole object of the crown phenomenon, to occur and to last as long as it did, to anchor those 10 commandments of navigating the unknown. Who does it impact? It impacts pioneers, it impacts founders, it impacts seekers, it impacts all of us who don't even know that we are seekers. What it makes possible is courage, innovation, fearless leaps, if you're able to really walk this pathway. And one way, one very simple journal practice that can support you, it's an end of the day practice, is just writing. It'll only take you maybe a minute, no more than that. Today, the unknown gift I welcome is whatever it is. Fill in the blank. And you will be amazed how blessed we are. Every day, there is something or the other which is a gift, an unknown gift that you could not have envisioned yourself. This is a little bit of a heavy one, but a big one. Sunny, do I continue or? Yeah.
Go ahead. I may say something at the end about this dying situation, but yeah, please.
The gift of exchange is pathway 10. What it is it is all about sharing your innate gifts while receiving others in reciprocity. Begin with sharing your innate gifts and allow yourself to receive others. And these others will come from sources known and unknown. And because some of these gifts that you're going to start receiving will be as a direct function of synchronicity. But it begins with you sharing your innate gifts. It matters. Why does it matter? It matters because creation thrives in exchange, not in isolation, not in holding on to. Who does it impact? It impacts each one of us and all the various networks and ecosystems that we belong to, our communities, our partnerships, our relationships. And what it makes possible is expansion without depletion, abundance without competition. And it is this that makes the expansion and abundance regenerative. You can each, as a practice, every week, just choose one thing, consciously choose one thing that is your gift. It could be skill, wisdom, kindness. Share that gift without any expectation. When you share a gift, just have no expectations whatsoever. Simply share it and open yourself to receive. That's all. And you will be amazed how one gift shared authentically with no expectation whatsoever multiplies 1,000-fold each time. Each time equals moments, seconds. So you can imagine the multiplier effect of sharing your gifts, doing it with generosity. Doesn't have to be physical. It could be a skill, it could be a wisdom, it could be a particular, it could be kindness, it could be holding space. And it could be material too, if you wish the material part to be multiplied. We've already gone past our time, so we still have 2 more to do. And the conclusion and bringing it all together is quite substantive as well. So I'm going to leave that to next week. And over to you, Sunny, to conclude our session today.
Thank you. I will conclude our session today. I will also say that I'm hoping that perhaps next week we can go deep into this allowing the dying, because we talk about it very often. Oh, letting go, doing burning bowl ceremonies, this and that. And, you know, we've all done it. I don't mean to make light of it. I think it's an extremely important thing. And I feel that I would love if you would grace us with really going for it, because I think at this time so much is going on that we just feel it, like there's so much that does need to die in my life for sure, and to allow the grace of the new. So that is what I would say, and I invite us all who are here this very emotional day, I feel emotional, to be joining us next week for certainly these last 2, because it's so important to have the whole bit together. And then that's pretty much all I want to say, other than I have a lot of gratitude for these concepts being brought to us. And I'm so happy that I'm with all of you guys. I see your smiling faces in your pictures, and I appreciate it so much. And again, Manu, thank you so much for bringing this wisdom to us in this beautiful way that you do, in this gracious and sacred way that you always do. And until next time, guys, let us definitely tune in next week, because we need to finish this off, and let's finish it strong. So thank you so much, Manu.
Thank you.
Have a
Namaste.
blessed night, everybody.
Yes. And I'm flying to India today, so I'm just going to be getting ready straight
Wow.
after.
Ooh.
Godspeed. Good night,
Okay.
good morning.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good night, good morning.
Good night.
Good morning, good night, good afternoon. Lots of love. Go safely.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody. Bye-bye.